Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Helping Friendly podcast. I'm Megan. I'm here with RJ and our special guest today, Matt Higgins. Hi, Matt.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Megan, hey RJ. Of
Hey, thanks for joining us.
course, thanks for having me. It's always a blast.
Thanks, Matt. We're glad you could join us to talk about the show that you saw just a little over a year ago on October 24th, 2021, at the LA Forum.
Yeah, it was a great, but I guess this would have been about the midpoint of fall tour last year. Um, Man, and I think at this point we all knew that it was gearing up to be a special one. Through the summer, obviously um, we got little bits and pieces of not that this was going to be a good year, but really hold on to your seats because this whole year we're going to bring new style, surprises. We're going to be not only playing songs we haven't played in years, but jamming those songs. And yeah, this was a really great midway point. This was actually at the time a hometown show for me. So I was living in LA. And fun fact, I think this was my, at the time, 72nd show and only the second time I got to sleep in my bed after. So it was nice.
Wow, that's great. You earned it for sure. That's awesome. Before we get into the show, should we remind our subscribers or listeners, RJ, to subscribe to Osiris Media on
Yes, we
Apple,
should.
right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And we have a new premium offering. If you're not an Apple podcast user, the Apple experience doesn't change at all, but we have a new subscription, Osiris Premium subscription. You go to osirispod.com/premium and you can learn more there, but you basically get a bunch of sorry, my daughter just came in and brought me a beer, which was really nice.
Well done.
That was not planned. Okay, osirispod.com/premium. You can get ad-free podcasts. You can get bonus content. We're going to be doing some meet and greets at shows and AMAs and all kinds of stuff. It's exciting. And if you're an Apple subscriber, you can subscribe to Apple Premium Osiris as well. So yeah, thank you, Megan.
Yeah, and there's lots of great episodes, like premium episodes of Undermine and HF Pod coming out. We've been recording them weekly for HF Pod, and the Undermine ones are going to be amazing because I've been really enjoying listening to the Undermine episodes, RJ. They've been so fun, and I've been making a playlist of all these shows. So if I can't
Oh,
listen
wow.
to the show, I've got like a playlist. It's incredible to listen to these shows consecutively like this, thinking about just these like heavy hitters leading up to Fall '97. It's pretty cool.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thanks for checking it out. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. We did an amazing interview today with a special guest that will come out later this month or later in November. We have a bunch of really cool. We've released 17 out of 46 episodes. So, it's a lot for people to to keep up with, but it's really fun. Thank you for checking it out. The format seems to be working for people, at this point, which is cool. It's a little bit of Under the Scales, a little bit of Undermine. And we're having a blast. So
Yeah, and they're not super long, the episodes. So you can get them in
yeah,
like half an hour, 40 minutes. So
exactly.
they're doable. Yeah. They're
Exactly.
doable. Awesome. All right, well, let's get into it. Matt, do you kind of want to start us off and let us know where you were fall? I know you did a lot of this tour, so fill us in. Oh, hold on, Matt, we can't hear you.
Last 2 years into this, you'd think I would have figured that out. All right.
We all do it. We
Yes.
all do it.
So I've been living in LA for the last almost 6 years at this point. I just moved back to the East Coast, but at the time, yeah, this was my hometown show. And being on the East Coast or being on the West Coast, a lot of times if I want to see Fish, I need to get on a plane, and not only get on a plane, but fly across the country, whether it's 2 nights, 5 nights, what have you. So, and at the same time, I had a feeling I was going to move back east the following year. So I thought, okay, let's go see as much as we can. So I only missed in this tour the 2 Eugene shows, just wasn't able to swing it. But we started in Sacramento for a night, drove over to San Francisco for those next 2. had a nice little breather for a few nights back in LA. And then I wasn't going to hit the Phoenix show, but decided that night before, screw it. So got a plane, flew in, stayed with a buddy, flew back into Los Angeles early that Saturday morning because I had friends coming in. So then we drove down from Chula, caught that amazing show, drove back up here for this incredible show. And then, I'm sure you all will be covering it, but a few days later, Santa Barbara, and then the 4 nights in Vegas. So at this point, I still had a little bit of wind left, but I was certainly starting to feel the last week and a half.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That's
Yeah,
like a
good for you,
full-on
man.
tour. Yeah, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I think I caught the same bug that a lot of people did. Not just with Phish, but since we're talking that, during the pandemic, once they were coming back, I was certainly like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much I'd missed this. I'm going to go to literally as much as I can. I know everybody says, well, I'm going to go see as much as I can, but yeah, we really tried to make that a point last year. And not only, that, it was after that summer tour, and we saw the strength of that and went, oh my gosh, well, we're not going to miss any if we can do anything about it. But yeah, so we are about halfway through our touring schedule, as was Phish at this point.
How was that Phoenix show? I know we're not going to get into depth about it, but there was like some nice moments, right? Some like really nice
Yeah.
selfies, right?
Yeah, it was really great. There was well, let's see, just talking there's small market, there's off market shows are really fun. You see a lot of new a lot of the people going are a lot of the same faces that you see from place to place, but it was great. I flew in again, it was kind of last second. I ended up staying with a college buddy who I hadn't seen in 6 or 7 years, so that was great. Brought him to the show. And that was really fun. I remember, I don't have the set list in front of me, but really great take on Soul Planet. There's a fun
Mhm.
March Monster that jammed a bit. I think right after that, I could have them flipped. There's a Loving Cup second set opener, which is again curveball, but that was a lot of fun. It's maybe not everybody's favorite song to listen to. I love that cover, but when they started playing that to open, Paige gets on the keys and the place roared. I think we had our first mics of that tour right after the Loving Cup. And then if anybody needs to go back and listen to one thing from the Phoenix show, I'd recommend that Hood, just a totally different take. I think it's Trey that sends them into the minor key pretty early on, and they just kind of stay in that zone for really the whole time. It's not one of those blissy peaks. It's kind of, it's Hood, but it's
Mhm.
really one of the more interesting hoods that I've seen. So if there's one thing I can recommend from Phoenix, it's the Hood. And then I know that you all covered the absolutely monstrous show, both in terms of output, but also the jamming style, I think, of the Chula Vista show the night before the Forum. But yeah, it's a really great week. And just before we dive into the Forum show, I just wanted to mention how interesting that week was, and even the following day into Santa Barbara, or the following show, I should say, because Santa Barbara was 2 days after LA. But a lot of times, Phish fans, we always talk about how Phish really benefits from staying in one place, one city, one venue for multiple nights, for obvious reasons. And what's interesting is that this fall tour is being, widely praised as one of the best in 10, 15, 20 years I've seen, what have you. It's obviously subjective, but I think we can all agree that it was very, very strong at the least. And out of the 13 shows, 5 of them were only one stops to the venue. I'm thinking Sacramento. And then we had these 4 in a row. We had Phoenix on Friday, Chula Vista on Saturday, we had LA on Sunday, and then Santa Barbara Tuesday. And I just thought that's really interesting given the strength of the tour.
Yeah, that's a lot of travel for them
Yeah.
to be doing.
Yeah. And there weren't a lot of off nights, We've been talking about this Fall 97 tour and starting to do the interviews for Fall 97. And it's interesting. It was sort of I don't know if we should compare them, although I think Fall 2021 was the best fall tour in many years. I don't know how many years, but it's sort of a similar thing. I mean, Sacramento was probably maybe the least strong of them, but
And I'd agree.
it's still like by the second night in San Francisco, they were on, and it's really interesting to think about as we go back to these fall shows, from last year. And I'm at the same time I'm doing these fall shows in fall 97, and I don't know, there's a similarity there just in terms of the unpredictability and the kind of like the way they hit the ground running.
Yeah, and a commitment to try new things and also just be jamming anything anywhere. Like I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. I agree. Great point, Matt. Thank you. And so the forum, we were talking a little bit before we went on air about the forum. This is the 7th time they played there. They played there 2 nights in 2018, and then in 16, 15, 14, and then in 2003. So they haven't played there a lot. And you were telling me it used to be the home of the LA Lakers, but now it's more
That's
of
right.
a concert venue.
I'm glad that Matt could tell you that. You did not know that before, which I think is fine.
No,
It's the forum. Come on.
I don't know anything about basketball or baseball. So those metaphors are always just like over my head.
Fair.
Yeah. Although I think one time I did make a really good baseball metaphor. But anyway, usually I can't. And I know even less about baseball or basketball, even less, just even less. I mean, at one point, I thought that Scottie Pippen played on the Pistons, which is not true. So in case you didn't know. But yeah, that was when I lived in Michigan too. So I really had no excuse.
You got
They were rivals. They were
Yeah,
rivals.
they were like kind of associated, right? Midwestern teams. Anyway, so Matt, the forum though looks cool. Like it has a really beautiful outside, like old school kind of venue looking to it. The pictures people take in front of it are cool. So I'd love to hear kind of about the vibe of the show. And I think seeing Phish in LA is interesting. I saw them at the Greek Theater. I was telling you before we went on, and it's just such a different vibe than anything you're going to see on the East Coast.
Yeah, it is. And the thing about the forum is that well, it's not in the greatest area, but once you kind of get through that, it's a really expansive parking lot. Maybe not as expansive. I know you were at the Jones Beach shows this past summer as well, Megan, and you know what that parking lot is. It's just flat,
it's never ending. Yeah.
Right. It's not quite like that, but once you're in that parking lot, you're really you're with everybody. It's really that whole lot scene. And I was a little apprehensive walking into the venue, not for any other reason than the lines the previous 2 nights had been disastrous. The Phoenix, I don't know how old that venue is, but there were 2 entrances on either side, and the lines wrapped around to the other entrance, which was
oh my God,
concerning walking up. And then Chula, I mean, I've never been in my seat as close to the opening notes as that show, and I hope to never be that close again. But so after those 2 nights, we're all hanging in the parking lot doing the usual meet and greets and saying hello, seeing what's up. And the whole time I'm like, guys, we got an hour and a half. Come on, we got to get back in line. And everybody's like, relax.
Yeah,
relax.
you're getting that like anxiety.
And
yeah.
Finally, everybody's like, all right, Matt, we'll go in. We round up everybody and we get there, and there are no lines. So that was really nice. I don't know if it's because the forum might host a lot more events between the sports and the concerts than the other venues I mentioned do, but other than that, it was great. Like I mentioned, I was living in LA at the time, so not only did I have my Phish crew with me that was visiting from all over, but we got to run into a lot of my LA friends that aren't necessarily Phish fans, but they had a really good time, and some of them, it was their first time seeing Phish, and you know how that is, just them seeing the parking lot, the spectacle, the whoa, what's the circus doing here? And so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's the best. I got to take my cousin to a show at Jones Beach this summer, and he's been to actually the only thing I think he went to the Great Went was like his only Phish experience, which I think is hilarious to have a festival be like your only Phish experience. But it was so fun taking him onto a lot and like walking him through. It's like there's nothing like introducing someone to that and having them experience that with you. It's so much fun. Love that.
Matt, where are you originally from?
I am originally from Baltimore. So Merriweather is the
Yeah.
not Baltimore. Baltimore.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, that's how people from Baltimore, pronounce it. It's fine.
That's it.
I just
Yes.
was just wondering what you think about this comment from our YouTube
I
viewer that
know, some
West Coast crowds are
shade.
weak.
Oh,
What do you
you see
think?
that a lot. I s- you know,
What are the crowds like, honestly? Because I've only seen San Francisco shows. I haven't seen an LA show, but I know that like I guess I liken it to like LA sports fans, which I know are like famously fair weather, but
oh
that might
yeah.
not be fair.
No, that's a very fair take, RJ. I do think there's a little, I don't know if it's jealousy or just playfulness, but yeah, the West Coast dates, whenever those are announced, do like to get poked fun at. But yeah, LA, there was a yeah, they're fair weather. There isn't a huge scene there. What is? It's rather small, but you have the usual when you walk in there, you can tell that a lot more people in the forum that night weren't familiar with Fish compared to the Chulas or the whatever the Action Pavilion Phoenix. So yeah, I feel like there were a lot more newcomers. There was quite a bit of chatter as the show was beginning, but honestly, I was surprised because I was at the shows in 2018, and from what I remember, it was a chatterbox in there, which it happens. But no, the place quieted down pretty quickly, and I guess that's what happens when you play Yem in the 2 slot.
Yeah, seriously. They're like,
You
pay
know,
attention.
yeah, and I got it. I know, Megan, I don't want to go too far ahead, but I mean, we talked the other day. We had Arvind on about the Chula Vista show, and we were talking about the kind of one of the themes of the tour being, the willingness to kind of go deep with songs you didn't expect. And it's interesting, like in the 2 slot here, you Enjoy Myself going back to sort of being a jam vehicle, which it wasn't for a long time, and that kind of morphed into like even skipping vocal jams, which is so great. Or not skipping, but shortening to go back into jams. But I like how this goes, and then it takes the vocal jam kind of into Momo Dance, which is just, I mean, what a wild experience.
Yeah, and I just want to mention one more point because I know we're sticking on the forum show, but it was really interesting listening back to just this weekend, kind of one stop, one stop, one stop, and how 3 of the songs that have been in the repertoire as long as any of them. I'm thinking Hood from Friday, the Fluffhead in Chula, and then the Yem in LA. 3 songs they've been in the repertoire as long as ever, and just new takes on them. Maybe not completely new takes, but you had a minor key Hood. You had the second, if you want to note that as a jammed out Fluffhead ever, and then Type 2 Yem. I mean, when does that ever happen? Any of those things? Rarely.
And some of them, they're doing them in the first set. Like sometimes, like they're playing Yem, Divided Sky, Fluffhead, Simple, all in the first set of a lot of these shows and
Yeah.
taking them deep, like right away. Yeah, that was kind of their thing, right? Like no set list rules. We can jam anything, anywhere. It's great. I love like the Wave of Hope as an opener too. I think that's kind of like a Sigma Oasis feel. Like we're gonna just ease into the show, and then we're playing Yem, and we're gonna play this like super dancey, unbelievable like space funk. Kind of reminds me a lot of what we got this summer, like in Atlantic City. A lot of this like
Mhm.
really funky, spacey sounds with like the synths and the pedals. Love the super short vocal jam. Like, yes, this is a perfect vocal jam. Like it barely exists. It's great. And then right back into the jam. And it was interesting because it wasn't like how they've been creeping back into the jam. Like one person goes on an instrument at a time. It was more just like right back into it, which was pretty cool. But yeah, this is a fantastic jam. Like I imagine the place must have gone crazy.
Yeah, when they first went into Yem, the place absolutely exploded, and I just thought, oh, that is going to be the biggest crowd eruption of the weekend. I was wrong as of set
Yeah.
2, but we'll get into that. But
That's always a good problem when you have when you're wrong about something like that.
yeah, yeah, and I just, I wanted to mention how great because the night before Chula's, in my opinion, I mean that's as good as it got last year in terms of a full show, and that jamming, as you all described in the last podcast, I mean, that was a monstrous show again in terms of quality, but also the type of jamming was demented, it was evil, it was dissonant, it was I had never heard a full show of Fish like that. And the next night in LA, the jamming, it's delicate, it's serene, it's just very light. And you hear a bit of that in the Yem, but especially as we get into the MoMA dance and that simple, oh my goodness, the simple into the Waiting All Night is just absolutely spectacular. I wouldn't even call that necessarily a segue from the simple to the Waiting All Night as I would a mashup of the two songs. I mean, they are just, the rhythm section is pumping, and all of a sudden you hear Trey come in with the lyrics and you just go, oh my God. I mean, it's like they were just singing. What they were doing was just singing Waiting All Night on top of that simple jam. And it was just, oh, I listen to it all the time.
Yeah, it's funny because I forgot about that, and I was listening back to the show yesterday, and I was like, "Oh my god, I forgot about this." Like, it's so cool and planned. I don't know. I mean, it's so beautiful, and they seem to find that spot so easy, and it definitely is. I agree. He's singing that over the jam in Simple, which is just so cool. I love that. It's so beautiful. It's so soulful, that Simple too, really funky. The moment is absolutely awesome. I didn't want the jam to end, but they found Simple, and so I'll take that for sure.
And it was sort of like one long jam, like
Yeah,
that whole first set, which is it would have worked if you had presented this as a second set, I wouldn't have been surprised at all. You know, like Wave of
definitely.
Hope, You Enjoy Myself, Mama Dance, Simple. I mean, it kind of all works, and that's it's pretty cool when that happens. I don't know what Matt, what was like the crowd energy like during this first set? I mean, what were people like losing their minds, or was it more like a mellow kind of groove? Because I don't think any of these jams really got to like like really huge peaks. It was more of a groove focused kind of set.
Right.
I wonder what it was like in there for that set.
Yeah, we were on the floor for it, and kind of out really just kind of dead center, right in the middle. And when they go into Yem, so a Wave of Hope at the time, I don't I don't know how many times they'd played it at this point, one or two. This may have been the third. I'm not sure. I could check, but I know this summer it is known. It is a jam vehicle. When I hear that, I go, "Let's go, buckle up." At this time, it was still, very new. I had only heard it a few
Second time.
times. Yeah, second time. So when it
Yeah.
was played, and then when Trey obviously released it, but when they first started playing, I'm not gonna lie, it was one of those I go, "Which one is this?" I know it's
Yeah.
a new song, but it was that was kind of the crowd. Sometimes it's, oh, what is this one? But then once they drop into Yem, the place was rocking. But to your point, RJ, after Yem, things kind of mellowed out. And I think that has to do with not saying that the crowd wasn't latched on, but just the rest of that jamming from the MoMA through the start of Maze, and even some of that Maze jam. It's really that more kind of delicate. There's a lot more space, and I think people were just, as you mentioned, just kind of more grooving along than the Yem and the what was to be the parts of the second set that we'll get into. But it was a relatively mild crowd.
Does that I wonder, I mean, there's no answer for this, but I'm curious about our thoughts. I wonder what it's like to be in the shoes of the band, and only the band could answer this, but and kind of like see the crowd reacting to this in a way. Like, I wonder how much it affects it, because I do think I guess this whole tour was more kind of groove focused than like big raging rock peaks, but I wonder how much the mellowness of the crowd rubs off on the band.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And one of my favorite seats in MSG is directly behind the band section. What is that? 112.
Yeah.
See exactly that, the interaction between band and audience. And I don't think that you could go to any MSG show and have it really be that mellow.
Yeah.
So
That's why we
uh,
love it.
yeah, because every time, anytime I'm behind the stage with the quote unquote band's point of view, all I see are 28,000 people losing their minds. But yeah, no, that's a really good question. I don't know if I have an answer for that, at least for this forum show, but it's got to play, it's got to play into things to some extent, I think.
I mean, I don't know.
What do
I
you think,
feel like
Megan?
the band's gotten so used to such an intent focused audience. Like they're really used to us listening really closely. And I think that they know that we will go anywhere that's interesting. I think that they have learned throughout the years that like we're on board. I mean, we're probably like the best audience you can have if you're a band. Like we like new material. We like it when you try new things and take risks. We always want to have fun and hear your old songs too. Like I think we're like the best audience. And I feel like they are probably, I don't know, I'm wondering, I think that they feel like we're with them no matter what, but maybe that's naive. I don't know. I'd be curious too.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how like amazing this whole fall tour was, and it was all West Coast. I mean, that doesn't. I'm not saying West Coast tours can't be amazing, but there was a really just a great vibe the entire tour. So clearly it worked. But it is interesting to think about whether if that tour had been in, Reading and wherever else in the Northeast, like would it have taken on a different shape musically? I don't know.
I wonder. I mean, I think this tour was mostly influenced by like the sci-fi soldier stuff and
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah.
and also just how like, inspired they all were to be playing again. But yeah, I agree. I think they probably would have sounded hot no matter where they were.
Yeah. I think, sonically you hit it right on the head. It's sci-fi soldier, but again, we're still carrying off that not only the momentum from summer tour, but now these are the West Coast fans' real first, their first chance
Exactly.
to see it in, them 20 months, however long it's been since their last shows. But, they're just with 2021, there were so many factors given the unprecedented world we were in that, it's so hard, but it's certainly fun to speculate.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into this second set then. This is pretty exciting, this second set, and it was so fun to listen back to. I love opening with Cars, Trucks, Buses. I feel like this is such a throwback song. It's like the jazzy piano. RJ, this is like as close as we're ever going to get to like jazz standards that we want them to
Yeah.
play.
This is the new
this
Take the A Train.
this is it. This is as close
Yeah.
as we're gonna get. And like
Yeah.
I remember when I was seeing a lot of shows in fall of 95 on the West Coast, they played this at like every show.
Hmm.
And we didn't even know what it was yet because they were debuting all the Billy Breathe stuff. But I love this song and I think it's a great way to open the set. And then dropping into Tweezer.
Yeah, Cars, Trucks, Buses, great little nod to LA Traffic. I think they opened up one of the shows in Atlantic City last summer with Cars, Trucks, and Buses
Yes.
as another nod. But yeah, great little, I don't want to call them warm-up songs, but songs that aren't going to jam, quick little 4 or 5 minute set opener. I know I always think
Yeah.
of Alpharetta last summer with the More into the huge Tweezer. They did something similar this past summer at the Man, but the Car, Trucks, Buses, great. We know that's not going to jam, or will it? I shouldn't be so naive. But then
You never
Tweezer
know.
drops the Tweezer, and you get that similar, just the crowd, okay, let's go. Big Tweezer, right? Wrong. It was only about 5 minutes. And now, I mean, we all know now that the Tweezer goes into the cover of LA Woman, which, alluding back to my first set comments, the place erupted. Absolutely erupted when they went into that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt, but I am already. So I guess I do want to interrupt because I have to take my kids to a Halloween thing at their school, and I'm going to drop off. But I didn't want to do that without saying something because I just want to say this this set is so wild and so fun. And Matt, I wish I could stay longer to talk about it with you, but I'm going to let you both keep talking, and I look forward to listening to the rest.
Thanks, RJ.
Enjoy. Nice seeing you.
Yeah, have fun.
I will. Believe me, it's all about fun for me. Enjoy,
It
guys.
sounds fun. Wow. All right. See you
Bye.
soon. Yeah, like you were saying, Matt, this LA Woman is crazy. I just love that it's like this huge doors bust out. They teased it in 92 and 93, both in Possum, just crazy. Then they played it in a sound check in 93, and then they played it two times, right? They played it in 2003 in Miami with George Clinton and the P Funk. And then here, it's just, I mean, this is a huge, huge bust out in LA. People must have just lost it.
Exactly, and because of that, like you said, they've only played it one time prior, and it
Yeah.
was almost 20 years ago. I don't think anybody had this cover on their bingo cards. I know, everybody
No.
likes to play their 5 songs at an encore or, throw in covers. We always love to guess all that, and I don't think none of our friends, had any idea, and, now when I listen back to it time and time again, I can obviously hear when, Trey starts going into the LA Woman, but at the time, I'm sitting there, eyes are closed, and I'm just thinking they're going into whatever Tweezer jam. And
Yeah.
one of those, the second Trey starts those lyrics, your hands just go up and you go, oh my God. And during the Mr. Mojo Rising, I
Oh,
think 99.9% of everybody in that venue was singing along to that. It was just a
I love that.
it was one of my favorite moments of the tour that, might not come through on the headphones, but it's one of those moments that sticks with you. And it was special.
I've got chills. That reminds me of like sometimes why I like to listen to the audience recordings or the soundboards because like you can't hear that on the live fish,
You can't.
release. You
You can't.
can't. And like
Re-listening to this, I was, yeah, listening for it, and I went, you can kind of hear it at the beginning, but yeah, to your point, this show demands an audience recording.
yeah, like so great. I mean, I love those moments and I love that. I can just imagine everyone going crazy. It's so fun. Huge bust out. I was reading about it too that when they played this in 2003, they hadn't like planned to play it, that Trey just started playing it and everybody was like,
I
okay,
guess
like
we're gonna have to learn how
we're
to play
playing
this on
this.
the fly. You're right.
Yeah, and, like, they'd sound checked it before, but that was 10 years before, it's just I love that, like, they were doing crazy things like that, and I think that jam, like, the last third of the jam in LA Woman, after, like, they do the tweezer
Yep.
tease again, it is so cool, it's, like, spacey, and the effect pedals is just so awesome. I've listened to it a few times, like, it was just so great. This whole set is crazy. It's
It
so good.
is. It is. And then, that as you mentioned, kind of fizzles out into a tweezer tease back into a little bit of that LA Woman. And then we get, is it Ghost or is it Santos? It was Santos. And the Santos was pretty darn good too.
Awesome. Longest version to date,
Right.
11 minutes, 46 seconds. It's like you can hear right at like 6 minutes in where they would usually kind of end the song and you can hear it just like go out. And I just imagine that moment must have been like, what? And then, like you
Big.
said, it's like this beautiful, earnest, like uplifting jam. Who would think that coming out of Santos?
Right. And once they started playing that way with Santos, you just had a feeling that, okay, this is the vibe of this show. And it's, that just gets stamped with the what's the use that comes after this. And I think there was even another tweezer tease between Santos and what's the use. I could be wrong, but after another tweezer tease, crowd knows it's going to be some type of tweezer fest along with these bust outs. I mean, the band had the crowd for a majority of this show, especially, through the what's the use. I think that the start of this set through that what's the use is it's a perfect 30 minutes, whatever it might be, 40 minutes.
It really is. And to RJ's point earlier, and so much of what they were doing so well last year, and at moments this summer too, is that the songs didn't really matter. They're like launching pads for like the next bit of jamming, right? It's like,
Exactly.
we're just going to use this to like continue these like awesome jams we're doing. And this is a gorgeous What's the Use? It's just so pretty, so well played. You can tell the crowd is absolutely quiet. It's so beautiful. And then there's another Tweezer jam, and it's got the Heartbreaker tees. It's like super rocking. You got Fish on like the wood blocks. He's just like killing it. It's like dancey and rhythmic. And then it gets really quiet and then builds up quickly into Birds of a Feather, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and the Birds is pretty good too.
Mhm.
I'm not I know it's kind of sacrilege to some of my friends. I'm not the biggest Birds fan, but when they started playing it, I think it's just because the jarring intro,
Yeah.
this kind of voice just takes me out of it for a sec. But no, the Birds was really great. And man, what were there? Was it the man? How do you pronounce it? Do you say Manteca or Manteca?
Manteca?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was the Birds or the Chalk Dust that was littered with Manteca teases. At one point, in fact, I'm pretty sure
Cool.
my one buddy just started screaming, Manteca! And all the people around the people around us thought that we were absolutely insane. But that just, again, it was a lot of energy continued through that Chalk Dust. The Chalk Dust, I think, is only 6-7 minutes. Not
Mhm.
the jam vehicle it's been recently, but that was a lot of fun too with this teases. I'm going to be there, by the way, when they do decide to play a proper Manteca. But
Yes, you are. You are.
and then
Mhm.
after that, the band just kind of started playing a few more songs. The rest of this set reminded me a bit of Night One at Bethel, which,
Mhm. Yeah.
it's not a problem. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's by no means an issue. But they just kind of started playing song after song after song after that, which was okay in my book. I don't know how this band played a 3-hour show tonight after the weekend they had.
I know. That's what's crazy, right? Is they come on after these like crazy hot shows and then they're able to do this. I think it's funny when you look at this set list for set two, especially after they've been playing some 4 and a couple 5 and 6 seconds second sets. This one looks a little bit like Jukebox Fish, but when you listen to it, you realize like how especially the first, least half of it is just incredible. But I think still, even like you said, the Birds of a Feather is great. The last 2 minutes are absolutely beautiful, like crazy pedals, super effect
Yep.
heavy. Mike's doing some like really cool shit at the end of Birds of a Feather. I love the like funky bass line they've got in Chalk Dust that leads into Boogie On, which is Boogie On's almost a little slower than it usually is. It sounded like to me, just like a
Right.
little bit slowed down. I'll always take a Boogie On. It's like one of my most favorite covers that they play. It's just the sexiest song that Fish sings.
Ugh,
It's so good. Like I'll always take it. Yeah, and then I think I was not expecting Carini, especially because now I think of Carini as like this monster jam vehicle. So it's like so
right.
funny that they would just like throw it in there. And then Mr. Completely also, what
Which
like
has
yeah.
up to that point, I think it may have been its 7th, 8th, ninth appearance, and I think most of them were monsters, or if not monsters,
Mhm.
hit the jam charts or a good 12, 13, 14 minute, and this was 5 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
but
interesting in
yeah,
this set.
again, the band decided they just wanted to play a few more songs before uh, lighting the place on fire with Tweezer Reprise as always, and that's what they did.
Yeah. And always a great way to end a set where you've got like a tweezer fest. You got to like put the bow on it, seal it up, rock it
Yep.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, again, as I just mentioned, as tired as we were, I cannot imagine how this band must have been feeling. And even after this set, I think a lot of us thought, okay, it was a good 3 nights, great 3 nights, 3 different cities. Give us something quick, and let's all meet up in Santa Barbara. And then the band decides to throw a jam on us in the encore, and it
I
was,
know.
again, just what is happening?
It's so great. I want to get to some of these comments, but first let's talk about the encore and then I'll pull up some of these comments and we can talk about them because I think they're great. But, Grind is a special encore, a special song that they play. They've only played it 28 times out of all the shows, so 1.5% of Fish shows. So you are just not going to get a grind all the time. It takes preparation, right? They have to like figure out the number of days they've been alive, and they have
Yeah,
to like come
changing up
out.
every time. Yep.
Yeah, it's inching up. They have to practice. So this is a song that shows like even though they're playing a different show in a different city all these 3 nights in a row and just doing an amazing job, they're also rehearsing these songs that are special, like Grind. And it's so cool, it's amazing. And then they have a proper jammed out gin, almost, over 14 minutes.
Yeah, that's a really good
Great.
point that you made, Megan. It's that, and I think we all know that, but this band clearly is not just going through the motions, even with a song that, they're not playing their instruments up there for. And a lot of people might not care too much for a grind. That's, some people, I'm not saying that's me, but even a quick little silly acapella, and they still have to go back and rewrite it to an extent and memorize it, or even though they might have the papers out there. But yeah, it's a great little example of it's just how intentional they are with really every piece of their performance. I never really thought of it like that.
I think that's the word, intention. This band is, yeah, I think there are a lot of things that we don't even realize, that we might seem as throwaway, but, maybe they were like, let's play LA Woman tonight, and they practiced it. It sounded practiced for sure.
Mhm.
And, they come out, let's play Grind tonight. They're always doing extra, and
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome. And Pete Shaw says, West Coast fans for this whole run were very much into it. Believe me, the quality of these shows were not lost on them.
I agree.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah. And Jacob Yora says that Birds into Chalk Dust was so killer. I lucked out with Chula the night before being my first show and this one being my second. Oh my God. Yeah, that's like when you see your first couple shows and they're that good, it's like, it's amazing. It's so inspiring. It's awesome. I love that like new fans in 4.0 can get shows like this. And it's just as amazing as like somebody's first show being like, 12/30/97 or
Mm.
12/31, 93 or so. Like this is so awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Man, I don't even know how I feel. I remember it, I didn't know what was going on until probably my 6th or 7th Fish show. So
Yeah.
that's great. That's a great start though. You can't start much better than the Chula Vista show as your first.
No, I mean, that's a killer show and you're not going to forget it for sure. Although I haven't forgotten my first show and it was, just a regular night in 94 in Michigan in November, but it was still a really great show. And there's so many moments that are forever like imprinted on
Mhm.
my mind from that night. It's hard to forget your first, I guess, in many ways, but yeah. Well, the show was awesome and it was so fun to go back to listen to. And Matt, anytime I get a chance to talk to you, it always makes me so happy. We finally got a chance to meet this summer at Jones Beach, have
Yes.
a hug, and I can't wait till you move to Brooklyn and we get to
Yeah.
hang out and yeah, we can talk more fish.
Yeah, I'll see some shows, whether the first ones are MSG or not, but definitely excited to hopefully meet back up around MSG. And yeah, I can't wait to listen to the rest of the tour's recaps.
Yeah, thanks so much. You're the best.
Yes.
And I'm going to do a quick ad read and then we'll let everybody go.
All
So
right.
we just
Thanks
want to
again.
remind, thanks, Matt. We just want to remind everyone about Sunset Lake CBD. Their line of smokable hemp products are for the old deadhead or for the young fish fan. Anybody searching for a mellow body high, smoking CBD has all the benefits of high THC cannabis, but without the paranoid and anxious side effects. They've got 9 different strains from this year's harvest. Hawaiian Haze is awesome for an outdoor show, and Cherry Abacus is best for the end of the night. And all the flower is grown, cured, and trimmed by Sunset Lake CBD farmers. And I'm sure you've heard us talk about it before, but they have incredible shipping. It comes straight from their farm to your door. It's super fast, it's inexpensive, and it's just a great way to get your product directly from them. I love Sunset Lake. It's totally changed how I use CBD. I love their gummies for sleep. And I also really like smoking their smokables because they're just a nice way to feel like you're actually smoking something, but you can also get some shit done, which is nice. So check them out at sunsetlakecbd.com and use the coupon code HFPOD. You're going to get 20% off all products. So we will be back next week. I think we are going to take Halloween off so everybody can get up to no good and celebrate spooky season. And we'll be back next Wednesday and we'll let you all know what that is going to be on our socials. So looking forward to seeing everybody then. And thanks again, Matt. I really appreciate your time.
Talk soon, Megan. Thanks.
Okay, bye everyone.